train Zeppelin. Imagine looking down a railway line and seeing what appears to be an airplane racing along the tracks. That strange machine was the Schienenzeppelin, one of the most unusual trains ever built. Created in Germany during the early 1930s, it was designed by engineer Franz Kruckenberg, who believed trains could borrow ideas from aircraft. Instead of using a normal locomotive system, the vehicle was powered by a giant propeller mounted at the rear. As the engine roared to life, the spinning propeller pushed the train forward, just like an airplane moving through the sky. The result was astonishing. In 1931, it reached more than 230 kilometers per hour, making it one of the fastest rail vehicles in the world. But speed was not enough to save it. The exposed propeller created safety concerns, and the design was difficult to fit into normal railway operations. Even though it never entered regular service, the Schienenzeppelin remains one of the strangest speed machines ever placed on rails. Railplane. What if trains never touch the ground at all? That was the question Scottish inventor George Benny tried to answer with the Benny railplane. Instead of running on ordinary tracks, passenger cars were suspended beneath an elevated rail high above the ground. The idea was to create a completely separate transport system that could travel above existing railways without causing congestion. To many people, it looked more like a futuristic aircraft than a train. A full-scale test track was built near Glasgow, and the prototype successfully carried passengers. For a brief moment, it seemed possible that future railways might hang in the air instead of rolling across the ground. Unfortunately, the project struggled to secure enough funding, and the railplane never expanded beyond the experimental stage. Today, it remains one of the boldest railway concepts ever attempted. Centipede train. Some trains are long. This one looked almost endless. The centipede train earned its nickname because its massive number of wheel sets made it resemble a giant mechanical centipede crawling across the tracks. Engineers developed this unusual design to spread enormous weight across many axles, reducing stress on railway infrastructure. From a distance, the train seemed to have far more wheels than any normal locomotive ever should. The design solved several engineering challenges, but it also introduced new maintenance problems and added complexity. While the concept never became common, it remains one of the most visually unusual train designs ever created. Aerotrain. This vehicle looked like it had arrived from the future decades before the future actually happened. The French Aerotrain was developed during the 1960s as an alternative to conventional rail transport. Instead of steel wheels rolling on tracks, it floated on a cushion of air above a specially built guideway. Engineers hoped this would eliminate much of the friction that limited train speeds. The project was led by French engineer Jean Bertin, who believed air cushion technology could revolutionize transportation. During testing, the Aerotrain achieved remarkable speeds, with one prototype exceeding 430 kilometers per hour. At the time, that made it one of the fastest ground vehicles ever built. For a while, many people believed the Aerotrain represented the future of rail travel. However, the system required completely new infrastructure and could not operate on existing railway lines. As France began investing in traditional high-speed rail, the project gradually lost support and was eventually cancelled. Even though it never carried passengers in regular service, the Aerotrain remains one of the most futuristic train concepts ever created. Jet train. Most trains use electric motors or diesel engines. This one used aircraft technology. Engineers experimenting with high-speed rail decided to attach powerful jet engines directly onto a rail vehicle. The goal was simple: find out just how fast a train could go without redesigning the entire railway. As the engines roared, the train accelerated to speeds that seemed impossible for conventional rail vehicles of the era. The tests produced valuable data, but they also revealed obvious problems. The fuel consumption was enormous, the noise was extreme, and operating such a machine regularly would have been impractical. Even so, it remains one of the most outrageous train experiments ever attempted. Gyroscopic monorail. Balancing a train on a single rail sounds impossible, yet engineers managed to make it work. Inventor Louis Brennan developed a monorail that relied on massive spinning gyroscopes hidden inside the vehicle. These gyroscopes kept the train upright, allowing it to carry passengers on just one rail. Demonstrations amazed spectators because the vehicle appeared to ignore the laws of physics. Although the technology worked, it was expensive and mechanically complex. Traditional railways ultimately proved more practical, leaving Brennan's invention as one of the most fascinating transportation experiments in history. Flying hamburger. Long before modern bullet trains appeared, Germany introduced a train that looked decades ahead of its time. Known as the flying hamburger, this streamlined diesel train entered service in 1933 and dramatically reduced travel times between major cities. Its smooth aerodynamic body was unlike almost anything seen on the rails at the time. While most trains still relied on bulky steam locomotives, the flying hamburger demonstrated that speed and efficiency could be combined in a sleek modern design. Many historians consider it one of the earliest ancestors of today's high-speed trains. Nuclear train. During the height of the atomic age, engineers believed nuclear power could solve almost any transportation problem. Some designers even imagined locomotives carrying small nuclear reactors instead of traditional engines. In theory, a nuclear train could travel for years without refueling, making it incredibly efficient for long-distance transportation. The concept sounded revolutionary and reflected the optimism surrounding nuclear technology during the 1950s. Some futuristic designs even included restaurants, sleeping cars, and enough space for passengers to live comfortably during extremely long journeys. It was imagined as a train that could cross entire continents without ever stopping for fuel. However, reality quickly revealed serious obstacles. A nuclear reactor required massive radiation shielding to protect passengers and crew, making the train extremely heavy and expensive. There were also major safety concerns about what could happen in the event of an accident. As a result, no practical nuclear-powered train was ever built. Even so, the idea remains one of the boldest and most fascinating transportation concepts ever proposed. Tracked hovercraft. At first glance, it seems impossible to tell whether this machine is a train or a hovercraft. Developed in Britain during the 1970s, the tracked hovercraft traveled on a cushion of air instead of wheels. The project was cancelled because it was too expensive. Today, it remains one of the strangest railway experiments ever built,